Low fat, high fat, no fat. There's a lot of misconceptions about this critical dietary nutrient we simply call fat. If you're confused about dietary fat, then you're going to want to watch this episode. It's time for your total fitness journey. Hey there, Coach Rick for X3TF, where our focus is educating you on the trifecta of exercise, nutrition, and mind-body to achieve total fitness. I was lucky enough to live through the 1980s. Awesome hairstyles, MTV when it was all about music videos, long summers, and no mobile devices that tethered us. In fact, it was in the late 80s that I started working out and realizing nutrition was important. Back then, low fat was all the rage. Skim milk, Diet Coke, non-fat yogurt. They all came into the mainstream around this time, as did a lot of misconceptions about dietary fat. Now fast forward to today, and it seems high fat is being promoted as vigorously as the low fat diets back in the day. But this can be a double-edged sword. Now don't get me wrong, low fat diets have their place when you're wanting to get lean, or you're prescribed one by your doctor. But which one is right for you? Like all things, the truth lies in the middle and is very dependent on not only how your genes can manage fat intake, but also your fitness goals and pursuits. I know I'm a broken record, but a one-size-fits-all nutrition plan doesn't gain you long-term success. What works for me might not work for you. First and foremost, dietary fat is what we ingest. Often, people hear the word fat and they immediately visualize body fat. It's a bit challenging to switch mindsets because the government, mainstream media, food companies, and even nutritional scientists spent years scaring us that ingesting anything more than a low amount of dietary fat would lead to higher body fat and disease. The science, however, was overlooked, partly because nutritional science has matured and evolved since then, and because there was a market for low-fat foods. Today, the Food Nutrition Board of the Institute of Medicine recommends that our dietary fat intake range is 20 to 35% of total calories per day. This, of course, can vary depending on your eating lifestyle and other factors. Now, dietary fat is necessary for many important functions in our body. It's also a major source of energy, coming in at 9 calories per gram compared to a carbohydrate or protein's 4 calories per gram. Now, the body needs essential fatty acids, which are the building blocks of fat. Fatty acids can be categorized into two separate groups: saturated or unsaturated fats. Unsaturated fat are found primarily in plant sources, typically liquid at room temperature, relatively unstable, and are prone to oxidative damage. Saturated fatty acids are solid at room temperature and have a long shelf life. Well, we've all heard how we need to eat less saturated fats. Why? Saturated fats are found mostly in animal byproducts such as full-fat dairy, cheese and butter, and animal meats like beef, pork, chicken, and egg yolks. A few plant sources do have higher saturated fat content, such as cocoa butter, coconut, and palm kernel oils. Now, one study from the British Medical Journal found an 18% increase in heart disease from individuals who consume saturated fats from palm oil and fatty cuts of animal meats and products, especially red meat and full-fat dairy. Now, those who are proponents of high-fat intake, like keto practitioners, might not agree with studies that seem to vilify saturated fats, especially since the general guidelines state that saturated fats should make up less than 10% of our daily calories, regardless of percentages. A key tenet for any nutrition plan is that we should limit saturated fats, especially animal-based ones, and replace them with monounsaturated fatty acids and polyunsaturated fatty acids. There is ample research that shows that the replacement with these types of unsaturated fats can significantly decrease a person's risk of cardiovascular disease. You also may have heard that we should eat more omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. These are polyunsaturated fats and are great for heart health and are critical areas in the body. Replacing saturated fat with refined or processed carbs and sugars is just as bad for your health, as it does not lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. Now, one type of fatty acid you want to avoid altogether is trans fats. Trans fats result from the hydrogenation of oil, or forcing hydrogen in oil, making it saturated. The big culprits of trans fats are hydrogenated oils such as vegetable shortening and margarine, fried foods like French fries and fried chicken, baked goods like donuts, and non-dairy creamer. Avoid foods high in trans fat altogether, or make sure you absolutely limit their intake. Let's talk energy. As mentioned, fat is 9 calories per gram. Excess fat intake is stored as triglycerides. When carbs are not readily available for a fuel source, the body taps into the fat stored in adipose tissue. To leverage the fat stored, the body metabolizes the fat through a lengthy chemical process that breaks down the triglycerides into glycerol and fatty acids. Proponents of high-fat diets believe fat-burning ketones produced from the liver when glucose isn't readily available yields cleaner and more potent energy. There is some initial scientific data that a keto diet can be beneficial for some folks, but overall, nutritional science overwhelmingly supports a balanced diet. However, folks with cholesterol issues, beware. Increases in saturated fats could increase your bad cholesterol as well. This happened to me and required me to redesign my keto protocols by incorporating leaner meats, higher fiber, and plant-based fats into my nutrition plan while keeping my saturated fats well under 10% of my calories. All right, let's wrap up this segment with some key takeaways for you to remember about dietary fat. 1. Stop fearing dietary fat. Low-fat diets that replace quality dietary fat with processed refined carbs like white bread, rice, high-sugar energy bars can adversely affect your health, including your heart. As with all things, balance is key. Low-fat diets have their place, but never make up your calories with processed foods. Clean eating is key. Avoid processed fats as much as processed carbs. Now that is sometimes easier said than done, and I don't know how many folks who don't love the smell of bacon, but really, bacon is not heart healthy, period. There are a ton of healthy lean proteins and fats that can be used as alternatives. Save the bacon and other processed fats like dairy creamer and fried chicken for those very rare splurges. Avoiding them will also help you avoid trans fats, which is something we all need to avoid in our eating lifestyles. Next, eat for your genes. If you have a history of cholesterol or heart issues, be careful elevating your fat intake, especially the saturated fats. There is a significant body of nutritional science that supports the idea that high saturated fats can increase bad cholesterol in some people. I know because I was one of them. Check with your doctor or medical professional if you're not sure about the quality and quantity of fats in your diet. That's not to say to fear a high-fat diet. Just remember, focus on the healthy fats and keep a nutritional balance. Prioritize the right fats in your diet. Say you're eating clean, great. Now make sure you're getting a balance of monounsaturated fats, olive oil, almonds, avocados, and nut butters, and polyunsaturated fats, walnuts, pecans, cold water fish, like salmon, soybean, and flax oil in your diet. These healthy fats have been shown to support heart health. Strategize when and how to indulge. Loading up at the same time on two fuels, carbs and fats, can impact weight loss and health goals. Let's use one of my favorite foods, pizza, as an example. It's loaded with carbs from the dough and fat from the cheese, plus any toppings. Consuming one slice of cheese pizza is about 300 calories. Broken out, it's about 37 grams of carbs, only 2 grams of fiber, 10 grams of fat, and 11 grams of protein. Typically, one slice is never enough, and you can possibly find yourself overloading on these two fuels before you down your third slice. Now, I'm not one for saying to sacrifice any food. As health enthusiasts, we need to strategize for these types of indulgences. In fact, I'm a proponent of less restricted eating lifestyles that allow for occasional indulgence. In the pizza example, maybe halve the cheese portion to reduce the fat intake or switch to a cauliflower crust to reduce the carb intake. Maybe keep your calories low throughout the day leading up to the meal you want to indulge on. You can still enjoy the foods you love, just strategize on how to occasionally fit them into your healthy eating plan. Okay, it's not the 1980s, so fear-mongering of dietary fat went out with leg warmers. Whether your goal is health or athletic performance, research has shown that healthy dietary fats are a necessary part of nutritional needs. Just remember, don't wish for it, work for it. Before you go, please hit that little subscribe button and notification bell to keep up to date on X3TF's programming that looks to help you achieve total fitness.